Vincent, hey, appreciate you joining us for the show, man.
Yeah, it's this is like the second one I've done, and the first one I did was I didn't even know, I don't know how to use the mic or any of this stuff. So
that's kind of how we started out as podcasters too, man. Don't worry.
Hey, man, that's how we all start.
We learned as we went.
The day we're born, we don't know how to use microphones.
I spent like the whole morning trying to get this microphone hooked up to the computer, and it's like,
sure.
I'm trying to call my son and get him to tell me because he hooked it up last night to his computer perfectly fine. And
of course,
yeah, he plugs it in and it works in 1 second.
Right.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, well, you just do this, and press this, and go into this window and that. What the fuck are you talking about,
right?
Man?
Hey, well, it doesn't sound bad. You sound clear.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Oh well, I went out and bought one of these blue.
Oh yeah.
Blue,
wow, you are a good sport. Thanks. Appreciate you, Vincent.
Well, I figure I'm going to probably do more of these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Seeing as how we're all locked inside our houses. I mean, It's been a year. I haven't even seen the sunlight in a year, man. I've been
right when we were talking over email. You were saying, you're looking a little caveman-y. Or
yeah. Well, I haven't cut my hair in a year, so
wow.
It's like. It's down to the middle of my back now, and one eye is half open all the time.
Sure.
I shower every 4 days.
Sure.
It's like as soon as your ass starts itching, then
Right.
Hey, man, I get it. I stopped cutting my hair like the beginning of COVID, too. And
yeah, you did.
He keeps telling me I should cut it, and I'm like, stop telling me what to do.
Well, it's because I shaved my head at the beginning of quarantine.
Right.
So,
and I opposite shaved my head.
Well, I figured I was going to be locked up for a while, so I might as well shave it off because you never know.
He just wanted to fully embrace the prison vibe to really.
Yeah, no,
like
I was trying to go for that sort of post-apocalyptic Mad Max vibe.
Isn't this so ridiculous?
It really is. It really is.
And most of what I do is working from home, luckily now for graphic design and marketing stuff.
Yeah.
But I've also spent a lot of time working on film sets, and of course that dried up forever. And now that we're getting back to shooting again, there's certain shoots I've had to get tested. Everyone on the whole shoot had to get tested before we're all together on shoots. And just, however different everything is operating now.
I'm on a show
sets.
right now, dude. And usually I would go and I'd be in art department, and work on the show. But now it's like I'm not necessary to be on set or in art department. So everybody wants me to work from home now. And it's so weird because, you're not in the middle of it. It's like you're this my schedule now. Yeah, man. My schedule is like I'm up at like noon or 1 o'clock, and then I'm up until 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning every night. I'm up all night just watching movies and drawing and stuff, and then I go to sleep. It's like there's no day or night or
linear time is now a myth.
And it's also, I feel like a lot of people, including like yourself with art department stuff, are finding out that you can do that stuff from home.
Yeah.
So you've been able to keep doing what you're doing pretty much at the same pace you had been, but just from home, or did it slow up a whole lot?
Well, you know what? It's never, nothing's ever a constant, Nothing in any industry is ever a constant,
Sure.
So I do like Magic the Gathering cards all the time. I always keep that kind of, that window there open, and I love that group of people and everything. And they give me the stuff that I could really like stretch my wings in the horror kind of, realm. It's weird because they say wings because I'm working on a magic card right now and it has wings in it.
Has wings.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's like the kind of the perfect area for your style, because even with the horror stuff you do, there is like a fantastic element to it.
Right. That's where I live. That's my that's where my head always is. It's in this kind of like horrific place just naturally. I'm not really I'm a regular person. I'm not like a horrible person or anything like that. But, you always got those monsters in the back of your head that are always,
Sure.
Well, that's kind of one thing that we've learned about the horror community. The deeper we get into it, is that it is a community of people who understand that that idea that you have these aspects of your psychology that you're not afraid of, but that also doesn't make you a bad person. In fact, most of the people at horror conventions are some of the nicest people we're ever lucky to meet.
Well, I think the horror community in general, the people that I've met, at least in it, are some of the most empathetic and down-to-earth people.
Right. They're the people that can really, really handle self-control.
Sure. Exactly. Well,
you got all that in your head. Like you want them, the axes going through skulls and, machetes like gutting people and everything. And it's like, that's all in there. And it's like, wow, that's really cool, man. All those guts falling out of that person. But you control yourself not to actually pick up that shovel and fucking somebody bad with it.
There's a famous interview with Stephen King where he says basically that, because somebody's mom that had caught them reading one of his books, like confronted him at a horror convention and was like, "You're a thick person. What's wrong with you?" And Stephen King was like, "Listen, lady, like the fact that I'm writing this down should make you real happy. Like the fact that I'm getting it out that way, that I'm not like."
Right. I think in a way it helps the readers too, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Even the horror movie watchers and everything. I mean, they get their sense of this horrificness kind of out.
Right.
Yeah.
Like and there's a catharsis to that. Like you can't tell me you don't come out of the end of like the mania that is Texas Chainsaw Massacre and like the raw emotion of the end of that scene without some sort of like catharsis. Or
who doesn't want to be that guy that's fucking, doesn't have a care in the world, just swinging a chainsaw around? It's like,
and I think that's why entertainment exists in general, right? So that we can all sort of vicariously live out these things that no normal human being is gonna get exposed to gamma radiation and turn into a giant green monster, but it sure as fuck is fun to like live that vicariously. Like, what if I could just smash anything that I wanted?
Mm-hmm. Sure, but isn't that the metaphor of anger anyways? I mean, that's what the Hulk is, and you get this kind of like anger strength sometimes when you get, I was raised Italian, so I have that kind of, that anger thing. I think Irish people have it too, where it's like they could be totally awesome for like 5 minutes and then suddenly the one trigger happens and it's just like this explosion of like just complete irrationality and strength. Where my point is that green Hulk veins pulping out of your skull, and then we get back to the self-control thing where
and there's just a part of us that are just like people who are just fans of monsters and horror movies, and we just kind of get that. And is that what kind of got you into eventually becoming a conceptual artist where you are now, is just being a monster kid, just getting into that stuff young?
Well, it's weird, man, because I was raised in a haunted house. My house was like terrifying. Yes.
Where were you? Where did you grow up? Just if you don't mind.
I grew up in Oak Park.
Okay.
A suburb of Chicago.
Sure.
The house, there wasn't anything that we really knew about the house that was strange or anything like that. But we know that the other owners were like, they were there forever. But there was no real stories from it. But we did get a bunch of furniture from a church that had burnt down on the south side of Chicago that they got a bunch of furniture out of. But, a lot of like really strange things would happen to us when we were kids, where we'd see things and we'd replace it with reindeer or whatever. Or you'd hear the doorbell ring and you go to the door and there's nobody at the door. There's no footprints in the snow, and it goes to the front door, to the back door, to the front door. You hear people walking up and down the stairs or playing the piano, and all this kind of really freaky stuff, which was always happening. We had this mirror that murdered several people that were trying to put gold leafing on it, and
what?
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's what. Yeah, mirrors freak me the fuck out, man.
You're literally living in the plot of multiple Mike Flanagan movies.
Yeah, yeah. But you lived it. Like that's wild. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Well, so did that sort of? Do you think that made you a little bit more comfortable with like darker things and like more macabre things?
Yeah, I think that it's more of like a you get. I can't use the word desensitized because it has such negative connotations to it. I don't want to say desensitized. I want to say it's more part of my my general sense of being.
Sure.
Is that's where I'm at? Is that's in there? I accept it. It's who I am. It's part of me, and I put it into my work. It's a lot of what I'm inspired by, and it's a lot of what I like to put out.
Growing up in a haunted house, did you find that you were had a more aversion to horror movies early on, or were you more attracted to that because of living in a haunted house?
Yeah. So we were always into the horror stuff when we were kids. I mean, my dad was really, really like totally down with horror and all the old Frankenstein movies and Abbott and Costello and Werewolf and the original, black and whites. He used to pick up the reels, the big for the reels from the library.
Oh, cool.
And watch them on a screen in the living room. Yeah,
that's
really
amazing.
cool. And we watch all these old movies like that. And that's how we got introduced to it. So then we started moving into creature features and Night Gallery and Night Stalker and all that stuff there was a big horror push in the 70s when I was growing up, with the Sentinel. I mean, when I saw the Sentinel dude.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
If you've ever seen it, dude, that was awesome. And when I was a kid seeing shit like that was like, wow.
Yeah.
Just blew my mind.
And I think the 70s specifically, there was definitely a marked shift in what horror was.
Yeah.
Right? Like it stopped being so much the external monster and they started going more towards stories about people being monstrous.
Yeah. The Omen and yeah. And then Rosemary's Baby and that kind of psychological horror, which, because we all have people like that in our lives.
Sure.
Man,
Right.
They're all around us.
Well, and that kind of piggybacks back to what you were saying in the first place about artists that create darker, more upsetting things that like they have that in them too. They just have an avenue for it.
Right. I mean, it's like you're going to go out, you're not going to see Tim Vigil going out and fucking, split somebody's body open and pulling their intestines out.
Right.
But he's going to draw that shit and it's going to be like, holy mackerel, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
And so as a conceptual artist, what are some of your favorite all-time on-screen creature designs?
Well, I mean, you obviously all the classics, but I mean, I really dig like the hardware type shit, the cyborg kind of monsters and like Alien, obviously Alien, but I love the mixture of that human and body horror type shit, like
good call with hardware. Richard Stanley, right?
Yeah. And From Beyond. Remember From Beyond?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I mean, dude, that shit is like and Hellraiser, like the original Hellraisers and all that shit, man. I mean, all that stuff was so like people like stepping out of it, like Reanimator when that stuff came out, man. And that was like, dude.
Yeah.
Stuart Gordon just knew how to just push every bit of his movie further than you ever think it would go. I mean, for me, From Beyond is like the pinnacle of Stuart Gordon.
Yeah,
but I think Reanimator is a perfect example.
Yeah, I was gonna say Reanimator is sort of the pinnacle for me.
Yeah,
but what you mentioned Hellraiser. One of the things I really like about Clive Barker's vision in general is he's really into like organic machinery, right? Like he's really into combining organic material with machinery and sort of creating this hybrid of organic machinery. And you see that in the Cenobites, and you see that even in the puzzle box. There's something about that puzzle box that almost seems like flesh and blood.
Yeah, right? And it all feels painful too. It all feels like it has some level of pain that's attached to it. Yep. And that's what really pulls me into that world, that ow, that thing, your skin is open and it's exposed to the air and you like that. And I just read somewhere that line that Jesus wept when that dude ripped apart, that was ad-libbed.
Oh yeah.
And originally they didn't like that line. And they were like, Clive Barker was like pissed about it or something like that. And then when it got into the movie and he saw it in the movie, it's just like, oh my God, it's the most perfect fucking line.
Oh yeah, it's the perfect line.
It's
so
perfect,
iconic,
man. Jesus wept.
And on those same lines, I think about guys like Cronenberg and like Videodrome.
Oh yeah.
And just like he was maybe the real master of combining technology with organic matter. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just like body horror in general.
Dude, Naked Lunch, man.
Oh my God.
Those fucking monsters, those hanging monsters with those weird things that people were sucking on. It was like the mixture between the sexualized heroin use and all this kind of shit.
Oh yeah.
God, that was so cool.
And even if you like look at really early Cronenberg and look at his film Crash, right? That's what that film is underneath everything too, is people who are sexually turned on by impacts and car crashes, which is blending flesh and machinery again.
Yeah. I'm rereading Naked Lunch right now, the actual the Burroughs novel, and I plan on rewatching Cronenberg's Naked Lunch afterwards, but like it's just that's very kismet that you brought that up because I have been thinking about that for the past week or so. Just the visuals from Cronenberg's movie versus the book, and like I don't think there was anybody alive at the time that could have done it as much justice as Cronenberg did it. Like,
oh yeah, I mean he had to. I mean I think that they did tone down the gay part a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Burroughs' character. I think they should have turned it up a notch.
I
in
agree.
The character,
yeah,
but still kept him that straight dude.
Yeah,
I loved how straight that dude played it. You know,
dry as a bone.
Yeah, and if in any other movie that you see a Burroughs character, he always has that he doesn't look or act gay at all, but he's so gay, and I think that's important. That's an important part of his character.
Yeah. Well, I think that's who Burroughs was in real life, right? Like Burroughs was this incredibly flamboyantly gay person that lived in a time where it just wasn't okay to be that. So he had to wear the suit and the fedora and like come off as this erudite pedagogue of a man.
Yeah, he was like a fucking CIA agent or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly. And that's kind of
guy.
And that's kind of and like it's funny that you say like secret agent because that's sort of like the top layer to Naked Lunch, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. Interpol, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
So Vincent, we'd love to talk about some of the movies you've been involved with, and we're just going to start with It Chapter 2. It's one of the most recent ones you worked on. It Chapter 2. We're big fans of the movie. I actually have the Art of It book upstairs with a bunch of your work in it. Tell us what it was like working on that movie. I mean, you're approaching a character, one, that's already been established in one film, and two, is an iconic horror character. So what was it like coming in as a conceptual artist for that movie?
Oh, man, it was like I didn't even know. The whole me getting in the movies in the first place is just a fluke, man. It's like, I mean, I can't say that talent doesn't keep you in the movie industry, but I can say that luck is what gets you in the movie industry.
Sure.
Because you just got to be in the right place at the right time, and somebody sees something and it clicks something in their head and they say, hey, man, hey, I like you. I'm going to give you a call. And then that's that. And then you're in the movies, and it's a very, very slow trog, where it's like you get this one thing and then you don't hear from anybody for 6 months. And then suddenly somebody else calls you up and they're like, hey, dude, what's up, man? And every time it's like this mind blowing experience with a person that you've only heard fairy tales about, that are like mythical characters like Guillermo del Toro and Andy Muschietti and Andre Orval and
right.
monsters of the industry and stuff. And
well, so what is it like to like know that you're about to work with Guillermo del Toro and then meet him and realize that he's just human?
Well, he is just human, but dude, he's bigger than life, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I oftentimes wonder, like, when I've met heroes of mine, like, yeah, I do get that sense of like, wow, this guy takes shits just like everybody else. But
there's something else there that isn't tangible. It's not something that you carry it in your hands. It's something that they exude. It's like an aura sort of thing,
right?
The more of an empath you are, the more you collect it and the more you feel it. And he's got this kind of fucking warmth kind of aura.
Oh yeah.
That kind of exudes around him. He's a very, very warm and pleasant person.
He's always struck me as kind of having like almost like a childlike wonder to him.
Totally, but super smart, man. And
I think some of the best creature directors out there are those guys that just never really fully grow up. Right? Like they never fully stop believing in monsters.
No, he's definitely playing in the toy box when he's making movies, man.
Hell yeah.
He's playing in the toy box. He's playing in these are all things that he's curated. This function over here and this function over here, and all these functions are all in these perfect places, and he knows exactly where he's going with it and exactly what he wants to do with it. And sometimes he kind of surprises himself with stuff that people like bring to the table. And he's just like, yeah, that's it. That's where I'm going.
Sure.
That's what I want to do, But
yeah,
all these guys, all these big directors and everything, they direct me to do the work. So
sure,
I bring my sensibilities into it, but I'm doing what they are directing.
Sure.
I'm not making a monster that's mine. I'm saying, okay, you want a Pennywise bug. Okay. And I remember the original Pennywise bug, and I know it couldn't be something like that. And I saw some other sketches that people were doing that were more in the bug kind of And I just was just like, man, I think it'd be really cool if it was just Pennywise in Pennywise's clothes, because he really is just he's like a manifestation of what is in their heads and what's in the head of a person that maybe took over back in the 1800s or something like that, this clown guy. And he's just a manifestation of that. And he grows bigger and smaller in some kind of weird plane that he brings people into whenever they're like witnessing him or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
But the guy's got some freaky ass fucking powers.
Right.
So you can go anywhere with it. So putting him in the clown costume, but with the, centaur like sort of spider body, gave him that really creepy thing, but still kept that Carlos Fuentes kind of original Pennywise costume and design, which Carlos worked with Andy on in the first movie and really made that thing come to life with the costume designer. I'm sorry, but the costume designer's name slips my brain. But
so that was your idea, to keep the spider in, treat the clothes as more of like organic matter of Pennywise.
And I think you fucking nailed it.
That's
too,
incredible. Because my question about what must be challenging with working on this movie is, I mean, Del Toro and Muschietti are both known to be extremely visual directors. I mean, Andy's known to draw a lot of his own storyboards and do their early concept art.
And the dude can fucking draw, man.
Yeah,
that's what we've read and heard.
God, dude, this guy, it's like hilarious because Andy is like one of those kinds of dudes that he's tall, he's good looking, he could fucking draw. He could play guitar. He can play piano. He can sing. He could sing like Tom Waits. And the guy's like,
he's like swarthy and Italian,
and it's like he's just he's fucking Andy Muschietti, man. I mean, he's just like one of those, and he's fucking Argentinian, and he's got the accent. It's like, fuck, dude, fuck you, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So was he able to, as another artist, was he pretty good to work with as far as giving you room?
No, dude. And on top of it all, he's the sweetest, nicest, most awesome guy ever. Super collaborative. He doesn't have a shred of the I did it this way, so I want it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's totally open to the ideas and running back and forth and bouncing ideas off you and stuff like that. And like the witch lady, he had this particular idea how he wanted the witch lady, and he drew me this sketch of it. And she had these 3 eyes and she had all this kind of shit. And so I said, okay, well, there was this scene that they were going to do where she was going to transition from the old lady, and she was sitting there having tea, and she was going to transition from the old. It's in the book, actually. I think the four charcoal drawings where she's holding a teacup, and then she drops the teacup, and her face starts to change, and she changes into the monster, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the final version, she has the 3 eyes, but Andy really liked the middle version where she has no teeth and her eyes are like sideways.
Yeah.
She's like crazy coming out of the fucking doorway, and she's
dude, that's the one part in that movie that I literally jumped.
Dude, that fucking monster. It's like came as an in-between monster, but became like the iconic monster, even though it was an in-between thing,
So whose touch was it to add the multiple mouths in the throat that are chomping?
Me, actually. The first drawing I'd ever done of the character, I was just coming down from pneumonia. I almost fucking died, dude. I was in Canada, like dying, man, like laying in throw up and like walking outside delirious in my underwear in the middle of winter. It was crazy, man. It was like fucking nightmare after nightmare. And then I kind of came out of it, and I get this gig working on it. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta work big, because I hadn't worked in a little while because I'd been sick, and I just started pulling out these 18 by 24 pieces of paper and just drawing in charcoal and doing these like really rough drawings and stuff like that, and getting closer and closer and closer to where I want to be, because the first thing he asked me to do was the witch, so that's what I was focusing on. And
hell yeah,
I produced a shit ton of fucking pencils and charcoals and drawings of these witch characters, and it came closer and closer and closer, and finally came. And man, dude, when I saw that Javier in the costume, wearing that thing, man, with those bead filled breasts, dangling, it's just so horrific, and the flesh feels exactly like it looks and everything.
Awesome.
It's just
because I think there's a surprising amount of practical effects in that scene.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I was really happy with the amount of practical in both those movies.
Dude.
I mean, obviously there are certain things that they had to do with CGI, but the amount of practical that they brought into it was just, as kids that, grew up, I grew up in the 80s, Jordan was born in the 80s, there's a part of me that like just really longs for horror and Hollywood in general to get back to that practical effect place.
Yeah. I mean, I think the digital, there's a place and a time for it.
Sure.
You see it. I mean, The Ritual had a really great
it did.
monster, and that was CG. And I think Keith Thompson designed it. It just.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It's so perfect, man. I just love that monster. And I'm hoping that we're going to be seeing, more kind of that kind of creepy, the Hereditary, the Witch,
oh man,
this type of stuff. I mean, I'm feeling like horror is coming back, and
it really is. That's actually we started this podcast because of that. We started this podcast. One of the first conversations Jordan and I ever had was about this sort of renaissance of horror that's been happening, and I think Ari Aster specifically from Hereditary is on the forefront of that.
And I think like blending where we're landing now is a great composite blend of practical and CG that's sort of driving a lot of these movies. Like we talked about The Witch that you worked on in Chapter 2, you couldn't have the hair floating in the way that it does without CG in that way, So like blending those elements along with those practicals is why it's so hard to pin down what we're seeing on screen.
You can't even have the face move. Okay? The face is a mask, and it doesn't move when he's acting. They CG all that movement in the face, it doesn't move at all. So that it's like there's a lot of CG being mixed in with all of our practical effects. I mean, they just have to, man. You have to. I mean, even if you don't have the hair flowing around, you're still going to have to CG the face.
One of the things that we didn't really get to see in the movie too much, but I love from your concept drawings of Pennywise in the spider form is his like underbelly or his like butt or whatever it is. It's like where the base of the legs sort of turn into like teeth lined mouths, and the sort of this butt was like a big chomping mouth.
That was a wish list.
Sure.
That was a wish list, and it was Andy was just like, I want to see. There's got to be like butt muncher. We got to do this butt muncher thing.
I love that. That's the term he used for it.
He's like, you got to get that booty shot.
Yeah, we got to get that booty. That's amazing.
And we're gonna get Bill. Bill's gonna get grabbed by the leg, and he's gonna get thrown underneath. And he's going to be, doing the remember in Lord of the Rings when Samwise was fighting the Shelob.
Oh, sure.
And the spike is coming down. He's stopping her with his feet, with the mouth coming at her, and stopping the feet. He wanted to do something similar to that, but you got these cloth kind of legs with these teeth on the inside that are opening.
That would have been gnarly.
Coming out and grabbing at it, and he's trying to push it. He can't stop it, and the leg is there, and And he was
that would have been incredible.
He was so excited about it. And
And what happened with that idea? Which is producers like, that sounds expensive.
I can't speak for anybody. I don't know why it went away, but I know it did. And he, we were all disappointed about the butt muncher.
Well, if we ever get a chance to interview Andy for the podcast, we'll be sure to ask him about his lament with the butt muncher. That didn't happen.
What happened?
Absolutely.
Well, if you don't mind talking about Shape of Water, just real briefly, I'm assuming that Del Toro is another one of those directors, like we said, that just comes to the table with a very clear idea of what he wants to see, very able to like say, hey, I want you to draw this for me. Besides that, like where did you draw inspiration?
I know you guys you're gonna hate me for this, but I worked on Shape of Water for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
I worked on the tank and the tank alone. I didn't work on anything else. And the monster was done by I think Mike Hill, and a lot of the other design in the show was done by a guy named Guy Davis, who's also another awesome horror comic guy. But I was only on that for 2 weeks, and it's weird because it all happened within so I was at Comic-Con that year, all right? And I'm sitting in my booth, minding my own business, sitting there drawing or something, And it wasn't real busy. And this big heavy guy comes walking in, he's got shorts on, he's black t-shirt, and he's wearing a Lucha mask, okay?
Yeah. Oh, I bet I know who this is.
And he's carrying all these bags and shit like that. He just looks like a regular fucking guy that you would see at a Comic-Con,
Totally.
So he just comes in, he's like looking around, he's like, looking, and he's just, you got good stuff here, good stuff. And I could hardly hear him because he's got the mask on, you know. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot, man. That's really cool. He comes over. He's like, hey, I want these 3 books here. I'm like, okay, cool, man. You know, here, that's like $20 there. And he's like, okay, can you break 100? Pulls the mask away from his face. He says, I'm Guillermo del Toro. I want you to work for me. And I'm looking at him, and he doesn't take the mask up. He just says that. And I'm just looking at him like, all right, man, you're Guillermo del Toro. All right.
Like, hey, you're the 5th guy to say that to me today, buddy.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's cool. Like, I'm Alfred Hitchcock. It's great.
Exactly, man. It's like, and I'm fucking James Cameron sitting there, you know. Anyways,
right.
You know, he's like, yeah, you know, I'm like, well, if you're Guillermo here, you could have him for free. He's like, no. I support artists. You know, I support the arts.
So happy.
Yeah, he's like, I would never do that. He's like, and I give him the change, and he says, write your name and your number on the back of this book, even though my name and number was in the book.
Yeah.
I wrote it big and giant on the back of the book. He said, okay, I'll be calling you. And he walks away. And he walks away, and it's just like, you know, it's like crickets in there then, you know, and I'm just sitting, I'm like, the fuck am I, what
just happened?
What the fuck just, and I call my wife, I'm like, I think Guillermo del Toro was just in here, because she's been telling me for years, we got to go to fucking Comic-Con because Guillermo del Toro goes there. I'm like,
oh wow,
you know, she's been telling me, and it's just like, you know, I've been to Comic-Con a couple times. I don't like crowds. I'm not a crowd kind of guy. You know, I'm a horror guy, and I'm a lonely guy. You know, crowds freak me out. But anyways,
I feel you. Yeah,
that fucking happened. It's just like, she's just like, see,
right?
Wow. Yeah, she was right. You know what I really love out of that story is that when Guillermo del Toro goes out in public and doesn't want to be recognized, he just wears the wrestler mask.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like his thing, I guess.
Yeah, I get. Well, and I'm gonna harp on it for a second. I love that he paid for the art.
Yeah,
like that, because like as entertainers, like I can't tell you how many people are like, oh man, let me just get a copy of your album, and it's like, cool, it's $15. And they're like, oh, I thought we were friends though, and it's like, yeah, we are friends. However, this is also, you know, my living.
Yeah, he was establishing a working relationship though.
Sure, and I love it. I love it.
I mean, he's a professional on every level. A guy, he's one of those, you know, 3D chess guys that he knows how to play this game, and he knows how to play it better than anybody. I mean, you know, and he's a great writer and director and artist and great guy all around.
Yeah,
so.
and talk about directors who have a major vested interest in creature design. Like Del Toro tops that list like every time. Really,
he does, and his creatures aren't just horrific; they're beautiful.
Yes,
you know, they
exactly.
have an art to them, and there's something that, when you see them created, you know that they're going to be iconic, and you may not even know where they came from, but you know that they're there in your head. You know, they're there.
Yeah.
You know,
you can see some monsters are like designed from like a person who designs it wanting to be scared, or like scary monsters. But I almost feel like Del Toro's, he designs monsters because he loves them, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I meant earlier when I was talking about how he has that childlike wonder about him, where it's like, you know, we were all scared by Frankenstein and Dracula and the Wolfman at some point in our lives, but at some point we grew out of the fear and sort of into the wonder of it, right? And into the, like, how cool is this?
Yeah.
All those monsters, all of them, they were all sympathetic monsters.
Yep, exactly.
They all had, and that is Guillermo's thing.
Yep.
He loves the sympathetic monster, the one that it's not his fault that he's a monster. He just is. And it's so difficult to live with people who are the actual monsters, who actually judge, who actually will look at you and be horrified and treat you like a monster, even though you're just a fucking dude.
Sure.
You know, I got a couple fucking things in my neck and scars on my head, and I don't talk real good, but what the fuck, man? I'm just a dude.
Well, and I think Pan's Labyrinth is probably a really good example of a movie of his where that's played out in the film, right?
Because like human is the villain of that,
right? Her stepfather is the villain of that film, and she goes, you know, into this underground world with all these quote unquote monsters that become her new family. Yeah, essentially. And
it's well, they are her. They were always her family.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. They were just calling her back, and that's the tragedy of it. Is that wondrous world that she had down there that existed, whether we know it existed in her or if it actually existed, it doesn't really matter. But it's what she had to die to go there.
Sure.
She had to save a baby to go to that place, and that's just tragic. And the way that guy killed that fucking kid in the beginning with the bottle.
The bottle.
Yo, dude, that shit has given me nightmares ever since. Like that sticks.
I mean, dude, there are very few death scenes in movies that got me, and there aren't a lot. Believe it or not, there aren't a lot in horror movies that got. I mean, that scene in Saving Private Ryan, where that kid gets that knife slowly pushed into his chest when he's begging for mercy, dude, that is fucked.
Yeah. Well, and it's more the lead up to it, right? It's the kid that it's him going through everything that he can think of saying to try and stop it from happening.
Who wouldn't do that?
Yeah,
exactly. Who wouldn't do that? Yeah. He said, wait, we could talk this out. You know, we could do this.
Right.
You know, his strength is weakening. His arms are weakening, and he can feel his arms weaken. It's like, oh, man, that is for a dude.
Yeah.
Or anybody, I guess.
Yeah,
in that position where you know what's coming is coming no matter what you do about it.
Yeah, no bargaining is going to get you out at that point.
That's horrific.
Well, I can't tell you how happy it makes me to hear stories about these modern directors that kind of confirm that they're good guys. It makes me happy to know that this newer generation of guys like Del Toro, Muschietti, Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, that they're really just like grown-up fanboys.
Well, even when you look at like Rob Zombie, you can tell he cultivates such a family around his films because how often everyone comes back to work with him again and again and again.
Yeah, that's the key right there. If you act like a prick, nobody's going to want to work with you.
Yep.
Right.
You know, and that's just the way it is. And most directors, the successful ones, they're just not pricks. They just act cool, you know, and they have good ideas and they're excited about stuff. And if a movie is a failure, they don't blame it on everybody else. You know, they're just good guys, man. That's just how they are. And I don't think that you could make it in this industry if you're a prick. I really don't. I mean, because it's, you know, somebody could open the door for you and you could step in it and you could be great. But if you're difficult, if you question everything that they fucking send you and you don't do what they ask you to do, you know, you complain, or if you complain on Twitter,
if you could shut that door on yourself.
And it's, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Is that like social media is sort of caught up with itself now? That like, well, and how lucky are we to be there too as a society that we are finally at a place where accountability is a real thing and it's not just, you know, average Joe Schmo that's already living a shitty life that has to be held accountable. But now it's, you know, fucking Harvey Weinstein. Take all his money away from him for being an asshole.
But there's still those anonymous people in Twitterverse that really are. Yeah. And I get it. I get why, you know, authoritarian governments and all their bullshit. They, you know, they have this and they have that. And I hate authoritarian governments. But for some reason in Russia, they don't have troll type people working in Russia because everybody has to say that who they are when you're on fucking line and they're
right
on their
There's
social
accountability.
Media.
Exactly. It comes back to you. It's not.
And now I don't agree. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think that lying should not be just something that everybody just accepts as being, hey, it's okay. You could lie all you want.
Well, exactly. I don't know how healthy it is to have so much anonymity. Right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I understand the point of anonymity to a certain extent, but what you're saying is really the consequence of somebody being able to act with complete anonymity. Like you don't know who I am at all, so I'm going to say the most vile vitriol I can say.
And then they just make a new Twitter handle or new Twitter account.
Yep.
And they can say whatever they want, and then they close that account and they
do it again.
Say whatever they want. It's like nobody knows. They can't track this shit. And I think that's the real horror of today, because that's what put this orange shit in office.
This fucking Cheeto bag in office.
I like to call him King Chicken Nugget because I'm pretty sure.
I don't even say his name. I don't even.
No, I don't. We don't say his name around these parts.
No.
Man, it's like Voldemort, dude. I say Voldemort more than I say that fucking guy's name.
I'd rather hang with Voldemort any day than the orange guy.
Yeah.
So to move down and talk more about some of the stuff you've been involved with, what was your role with the new The Predator movie, Shane Black's film?
Okay. So I was brought in very late on that show. So there was a shakeup over at Fox. And they wanted to change the whole third act, and they wanted to do it really fast because Shane had brought in a bunch of new monsters and stuff. And they were all in the third act. And they weren't completed or anything like that, but that's where all the money was going to go. But then there was this big shakeup at Fox, you know, whatever honestly, I really don't know what the particulars of it were, and I don't even want to speculate.
Sure.
But there was some bullshit going on that I'm not privy to, and Shane calls me up because one of his assistants had worked on Fantastic Voyage, which got canceled. I was on that for like 2 months or something like that. And then this person got hired over on that show. And at the end of that show, they're like, oh, they're going to be redoing this third act. And we need you to come out and help storyboard it. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure.
Cool.
I can storyboard it and it's cool, you know. So I went out and they had me out there, I don't know, like 4 or 6 weeks. And I was like living in a hotel outside of the lot. And then I go on the lot and I work on the lot for the day. And Shane is he's just one of those fucking guys. He's so super chill. You know, he's not one of those kinds of people that you would think is unapproachable. He's like, he may look it in his face, but he's not. He's like a super, again, he's a really, really cool guy. That's a great collaborator. He's always looking for ideas to mix in and bounce off of. And he's got that 1980s sort of buddy cop kind of lingo going all the time and everything. Cool. And he's just,
I mean, the guy wrote Monster Squad. I mean, I'll approach.
Yeah, he's just the sweetest guy. He really is a great guy. You know, I mean, I could even write him and just ask him a question. He's like, "Oh, what the fuck you asking me for?" Dude, who else am I gonna ask?
So your main role in that film was storyboarding some sequences.
Yeah. So I storyboarded the whole third act.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So is that how often does storyboarding play into what you do normally on movies? Like, was that like a one-off for that, or do you find yourself?
Well, when I was in video games, I did a lot of storyboarding.
Okay.
You know, and I've done storyboarding for like animation and for effects and stuff. You know.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Is that what you were doing on? Because I saw that you did several Mortal Kombat games. Was that storyboarding or concept art?
I did some storyboarding on those. I didn't do a lot of concept art. Most of what I did was more like keyframe sort of work and
like working on cutscenes type things.
Yeah, cutscene stuff and everything. I didn't really work on the main games.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's where I come from. I mean, I did Animaniacs back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I read that. Yeah. And like
that was like one of your first things.
as someone who's a big part of my childhood was like fostered by that show. Thank you is all I have to say. Like I think that is my childhood.
And they're bringing it back.
Yeah, it's back. I think it's already back.
It's already back.
I haven't watched any shows yet. They're bringing back Tiny Toons too.
That's what I heard. But when they're bringing back Animaniacs with all the original voice actors too, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That
I want to know what the animation looks like now. If they've like updated or if it feels like.
I saw a trailer for it. It looks pretty. It's updated, solid, but it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably just using more modern tools now, and that's all. You know, I mean, the tools today are just anybody could use them. They're free.
Right.
I mean, all the tools you need to make any kind of production is right at your fingertips, and most of it is free. It's unbelievable what we can do today, man. It's just that's one of the reasons why I bought this microphone, man, because I'm putting together stuff myself. Sure. I wrote a bunch of scripts. We're about to put out. We're gonna put out a book of. My wife has been writing these creepy poems, and we're gonna do a book of poems and creepy monsters and shit like that.
Hell yes,
I love it.
Hell yes.
And we're gonna put out an art book over the next year. Well, I wrote a couple full movie scripts, and I wrote a few shorts, and so we're gonna film a couple shorts this winter, you know, to get all the bugs out and shit like that.
Sure.
And then maybe start filming a full feature next year, man.
You would direct?
Yeah.
When you're writing a script, obviously you're a visual artist. Do you find yourself writing more from a visual place? Do you find yourself more like this is what I'm seeing in my head, and how do I translate this to the page, or the opposite of that?
It's really organic, man. You know, you know, if you got an idea, something, you know, I base everything on my own experience, you know, and you bend it into genre or you bend it into something, but, you know, you got to try to see it from a place that you understand and that you know, you know, and then you go from there. It's visual, it's like, oh, I remember this place and I remember what's scary about that.
Sure.
And what really got me about it. And then I try to look at it from that perspective and draw from that perspective. But the characters themselves, they have their own minds. You know, when you're writing a character, they tend to say what they say, and it's not necessarily you saying it for them. You're just writing it. It's almost like you're just this medium that they're channeled through you. And whenever you're in their characters, you're hearing their voice in your head and you're seeing them act out things in front of you. And everything is like a movie in my head. It's not, when I'm painting, I'm not thinking of it as a painting. I'm thinking of it as a moving picture. It's a moving thing.
Sure.
The wings are opening, the eyes are flickering. There's like a cloud moving in the background and a break of sunlight, and all those things are there in my head, every detail. And writing it down just defines it. And then when you start drawing story for it, it defines it more. And then when you start, taking the pictures and looking at the angles, it defines it more. It defines it more until you start setting up your sets and getting all your pieces in there and all the things that's going to make that perfect scene, that scene where people are going to come together. They're going to express emotion and their feeling and dread.
Right.
I know right now we're all feeling dread. We've been feeling dread for like 4 years. And this is something that we're very, very used to. And right now there's going to be a sort of a calm starting to happen. And that's why I have a feeling that, a lot of horror has become very popular because a lot of people are living that right now.
Right.
They're feeling that. So horror is really jumping out there. But now with Joe Biden coming up.
Yeah, there's like this collective deep breath.
Right.
Right.
Bad politics always fuels good horror,
Yeah.
That always happens.
But the bad politics are still here because fucking McConnell, that evil. Have you seen that fucking guy recently with those purple ass fingers and the purple around his mouth? I mean, the dude sold his soul to the devil, man.
Oh, surely.
There ain't no doubt in my mind. Kentucky has a fucking doorway to hell, and it's in that guy's soul.
Oh yeah. I was literally just talking to my partner today earlier about how we have had such a lack of empathy from the place of our president for the past 4 years that anytime I see a video of Biden like just doing normal human things, like walking into a Whataburger and like hugging a kid, I just like almost burst out in tears because I forget what it's like to see empathy from a leader.
A gentleman, a man that isn't some creepazoid like this Weinstein guy or Trump grabbing woo-haws and shit.
And I think you're right too. Like things aren't going to go back to being not scary because what's happened is even when Trump leaves, the mask has been pulled back from a big portion of American society, and that monster's not dead. It's just hiding.
No.
Your uncle can't just pretend to not be racist now.
That
Trump's not in office.
These group of people, what they did is they usurped the 1970s, punk rock era where they were they were the rebellion. They rebelled against the system. And, they were loud and they were successful. But at the same time, the message really is what brought us fucking Reagan, and this fucking horrible 100%. Thing. And now that far right has taken over that rebellious, fuck you. We're not going to do anything that's lawful. Anything that we can get away with, we're going to get away with, and we're going to do it for ourselves. Yep. And all you motherfuckers, fuck you. Unless you're kissing my ass, you could all fucking die.
Yeah, or unless you're vicious and brutal enough to be more vicious and brutal than me.
I know.
Right? That's what really bugs me about it, is that the only way to succeed in their realm is to be more vicious and less empathetic than they are.
A bigger bully.
Yeah,
exactly. It's all just bully, and it's horrible. But there are guys like us. We're here, and we're not. We're not pussies or anything like that. We're gonna fucking, someone knocks on your door, you got a fucking axe right behind the door. You got, got a machete at the back door.
And horror has historically always been so good at turning that mirror around on the worst parts of society. So that's always a good place to be when things are bad, because it's a place to see how bad they really are.
Yeah, we work out our fears, man. We work out our fears. This is the real horror show, man. I mean, we couldn't even have Halloween because this is what's scary right now. I mean, we're terrified. This man could start a civil war.
Yeah, I've said this before. I'm. It's crazy that I long for the days when Sarah Palin was the scariest person in politics.
Where are we at as a nation where people are looking back whimsically on Dick Cheney?
Oh my God, that guy's fucking Darth Vader.
Right, he just shot people while he was on hunting trips, and Sarah Palin just murdered wolves from a helicopter. That's not even bad by 2020.
Right, by 2020 standards, he's a fucking saint. And it's funny because you're right, he is Darth Vader, but I think that makes Trump Palpatine. But I have more respect for Palpatine than I do Trump.
No, dude. Trump ain't no Palpatine.
No.
That's what I'm saying. He's not smart enough to be that guy.
No, dude. No. He's like Watto. He's like,
that is a great comparison.
Yeah. T-15? Nah, we don't got that.
Your Jedi tricks don't work on me.
So there's a movie I would really like to talk to you about, because this, honestly, from my perspective, might be one of the most interesting as far as a conceptual artist, and that's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I've said this before on the podcast. It amazes me about this movie is that when people are adapting conceptual art or art of creatures from comic books or other films, there's a numerous amount of imagery to build off of. But when Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, these monsters are all based on a single image that's a two-dimensional black and white line drawing. Yeah. And yet we can recognize them immediately on screen when they show up in a three-dimensional character.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of that was Guillermo was staying, he was kind of staying true to the original look of these characters. And I think that was a highest priority for that movie. Definitely.
It nailed it. It nailed it.
It nailed it.
So what was your role on that film?
Well, I was designing a lot of early house stuff, and I did do a lot of designs for Sarah.
Okay.
Because there was and that's pretty much what I focused on the entire time I worked on it. And Sarah ended up being, what she is, the white creature, and that was, a lot of Guillermo's direction. But early on, I didn't get a lot of direction. They just said, come up with a bunch of stuff. And there's a book that came out. It was a companion book to the Scary Stories movie that has probably 90%, 85% of all the art I did for the movie in this book. It's really beautiful, and it has a lot of really great art in it. And there's the stories of the characters in the movie they have like little journals in there next to this pictures and everything like that. And it's kind of given the character of Sarah the credit for all the drawings in the book. But
cool.
It does have a little section in the back that talks about Mike Hill and his creature designing and stuff like that. But Sarah was kind of given the credit for the art in the book. So when you don't see my name in there, don't panic. All the work is on my Instagram and stuff like that. It's, I did it. So it's there.
Right.
He was lying to me the whole time.
What can you tell us about Danger and Eggs?
Oh, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we want to talk about it. What can talk to me about it?
Okay.
That's something you actually directed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was one of several directors. I was one of the supervising directors. Me and Mike Owens supervised a bunch of other kids that were all comic book kids. So we kind of had to teach them how to do storyboards, direction style for the show for that first season. I really had other obligations at the time too. So, it was my buddy that I'd come up with. We worked on Hysteria and Animaniacs together way back in the day, and he's just like, man, I need your help. I can't find anybody. You got to come up and help me until we could find somebody solid and everything. I'm like, sure. I mean, I guess I could come up for a while, and they had a producer out in LA that was, trying to direct all the voice actors out there. And it was like, they were just putting together this new thing. I'm like, all right, I'll come up. So we go up to his house, this fucking guy lives in a Victorian horror house.
Of course he does.
That you wouldn't possibly, I mean, you couldn't have written a more haunted house than this house.
There's just constantly a centralized thunderstorm over that house.
Right.
Dude.
It's like a Zoloft cloud just sits over that house.
Up in St. Paul. So it was built in the 1800s, mid 1800s. And it was your classic, it was more Edwardian, I think. But tall windows and the leather embossed walls. And
so it's basically like a house from Hammer Horror.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then a basement.
Okay.
A basement.
Not just a basement, a basement.
To shoot in a basement like that would be a dream. And I think I'm going to totally go up there and take over his house.
You got to call in that card now. You got to call in that favor.
So the basement is the size of the whole house. It's not cut off at any point. So, and there's walls in between, brick walls with doors in them. Some with crickety wood and everything like that. And at the very back, at the very back of it, all the way it's not in the back, it's in the front of the house, because you go down the stairs in the back of the house, and you walk all the way through the front of the house, right? And you get up there, and there's a pit in the floor.
What?
Cut out in the floor with a hole where they say it used to be a coal pit.
What?
But it looks more like a grave.
Yeah, this literally sounds like an Edgar Allan Poe story at this point.
It also kind of sounds like the basement of the Neibolt house from It with the well and everything.
Totally. It looked like that well. It was just like that. And we're back there. It's like, this is where we come back to smoke pot.
It's like, do you have to come back so far? Couldn't
lost
you do it
your
up there?
Fucking mind, man.
I'm not going to use mind-altering drugs in this pit.
You're like, dude, it's decriminalized. You don't have to smoke weed down the pit.
Isn't this what we've been fighting for? To not have to pit smoke weed?
We're trying to crawl out of the pits. So we were talking about Danger and Eggs. How much of that show did you actually direct?
I did one season. I didn't even do the whole season. I only did half of it. I had another project that was coming up. So I had to leave the show early, but it was good that I did because they found a guy that was working on The Simpsons or something like that to take over my place. And he had a lot of managerial experience in that, being able to handle the producer and handle all that other stuff that Absolutely. I'm not, that's not really my gig, man. I direct, I can handle the people that are within my realm right here, but dealing with, people on the other side of the world,
I know that feeling. It was like, dude, I just want to draw pictures.
Yeah, exactly, man. Anyways, Danger and Eggs, had a lot of fun. Me and Mike Owens, we sat in the same room together, and we had a blast working on it. We laughed our balls off. We're sitting there and we'd just draw something. One of us would start laughing. We'd laugh so fucking hard. I'd turn around, he'd show me the look, and it'd be like, oh yeah, and I'd laugh, and I'd show him this other thing. A lot of times when things go through a lot of hands, especially in animation, going up and down the line, you're always going to have people that have different sense of humors.
Sure.
So and different messages that they want to push back and forth. And I totally get it. It's like that's how this system works now. Sure. And I wasn't a creator of the show, so I really don't know any of that. I just wanted to make funny shit. So once it went over the fence, a lot of the things that I thought would be funny probably wouldn't work within the realm of what they're trying to do. But hey, I won an Emmy for it, so I'm not going to complain too much. It was
exactly.
It was a great show, and it was really fun. And I think that they did a really good job of taking these really heavy issues and gently laying them down and making people laugh. It was a good show. It was funny. That egg is fucking hilarious, man.
Oh yeah.
Anything that lives in the ass of a giant chicken is going to be fucking funny.
How can it not be? Right?
The effort to make something that's palatable and also has such an air of inclusiveness for the LGBT community. You know what I mean? Like that's commendable right there. Like, and that again, that's the kind of thing that gives me hope, and that has given me hope through this past 4 years, is that there is this art being made.
But that's the thing. You can't even think of something without something like that coming into just the idea of it. I mean, nowadays that's where our heads are at, man. It's all around us. It has to go that way, Yeah.
And you can't ignore it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to watch sort of society catch up to itself in this more inclusive, non-binary world, right? Right, and and people realizing that holy shit, like this is a non-issue now. Well, and I think about, like, I have a 13-year-old niece, and I think about this all the time, about how she has virtually no concept of prejudice when it comes to orientation or gender identity.
And that's a natural state of being.
Yeah, and it's amazing
for all of us,
right?
Man, it really is, and we only get these prejudices as we get older.
For sure, for sure.
It's experience, and whether that experience is a positive or a negative one, Sure.
Well, just to kind of round it off at the end here, do you have anything coming up that you can talk to us about? We totally understand if you can't, because I know what NDAs are like. But is there anything that you have down the pipeline that you can share with us at all, or
anything you're excited about?
I'm excited about a lot of stuff, man. I'm excited about a lot of stuff. I have hope for the future, and
sure.
I worked on a couple really great projects early this year. One was really awesome with Warner Brothers, and the other one was with the James Wan guys.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I can't talk about it, but
that's fair. That's fair. When you say the James Wan guys, do you mean was it with Twisted Pictures or no?
It was with Michael Clear.
Okay. Very cool. Well, we won't press you on it, but I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm jealous. Like James Wan is a hero of mine. And I'm jealous.
Those guys know how to make movies, man. They know how to make
movies.
They do.
Fuck yeah, they do.
And so you make a lot of art on your own. I've seen plenty of stuff you've posted with your own creature creations and your own art. Do you do solo shows or do galleries or anything with your own art? Or?
Coming up, I mean, the pandemic put a big,
sure,
nail in my whole. This summer was going to be my summer of making my first movie, man. This was going to be it. I had money lined up. I had people lined up. I had stuff to do. I had a script ready, in a pretty good form. But then, I was going to shoot this short, and everything kind of just fell apart because, pandemic. Everybody's got to lock up.
Absolutely.
So it's good though. It's a good thing though, because, it gives you time to go back, you reread, you go through it, you work out some kinks, you figure it out. It might become something else.
Right. We talked to another director and he had told me that no matter what you're working on, you can benefit from more pre-production. And I think that's like one of the truest statements. Yeah. And that's always what I try to keep in my head when I start to get down about how, plans that I've had for making films have gotten pushed back like a year. I just got to keep that kind of mindset.
Yeah, you got to not really worry about, when you get a quote unquote roadblock. And you could climb any wall, you could cross any street, you could do anything, man. I mean, we've got all the tools right here. As long as you got people that can believe in you and you can get them on your side, man, dude, the world is yours, man. You can do whatever you want. It's a good, it really is a good time to be alive, man. It really is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree. And I love your attitude regarding that.
Yeah,
I love the positivity there. Like
it's great.
That's what we need too. Like I was telling somebody this recently, like right after the election happened and everybody is, freaking out and being all either pessimistic or optimistic. And I was like, man, what we need right now is for people to just breathe and be positive. Mm-hmm. Breathe and say, okay, what are the positive things that have come out of this thus far? And how can we focus on manifesting more positive shit?
Well, that's the thing. You got to work on your thing.
Yeah.
And you got to do your thing your part and whatever you're good at. And it doesn't matter what it is, A lot of people are good at politics. A lot of people are good at making shit, Mm-hmm. And I just want to make stuff. I mean, this movie I'm going to do is going to be cool, man. It's going to be really cool. Horror, 1970s priest.
Oh, we've said a million times we're fans of stuff set in the 70s.
Oh yeah, I'm if it involves Satan and the 70s, I'm in.
It does. Basements and
oh hell yeah.
And brick walls and set
gravity
basements.
Heaters and sledgehammers and all that kind of stuff.
Oh fuck yeah!
Oh, awesome. So that's exciting. We'll have to have you back on the show to talk about that.
Yeah, and also when your wife and you put out this poetry / visuals thing, we'd love to have you back for that as well, man.
Absolutely,
just to talk about it.
Yeah, we just started working on it. She's got some really great poems that she's getting together, and we're going to do it in charcoal or ink or something like that. And it's got these little drawings we're all going to put on every page. It's going to be good, man.
One last question I have is, what is your preferred medium? Like, if you just, pick up what's your favorite thing to start drawing a monster, what is that? Is it pencil? Is it charcoal?
I don't have a favorite medium. I have mediums that I have more access to, and then you have, it's like, I'm a crazy person, man. I never draw or paint or create an image in the same way twice.
Oh, wow.
I'm crazy like that, man. It's like every time I do it, I'm making it up as I go along.
Well, do you find that kind of helps the creative juices flow a little better, though?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, it's terrible. And I fight and I battle with myself. It's like this constant battle. And but it is what it is, dude.
And whatever it is, it's clearly working for you. So don't give up the fight, I guess.
I do wish it was a little easier, though.
Sure. I think as creatives, I think we can all say we wish it was a little easier.
I think we've all said that at one point in our lives.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like the whole thing. It's like
we suffer for our art. Yeah. It's worth it.
But we love your outlook and we love the positivity. So, Vincent, thank you so much for joining us and talking with us on the show. It's really been awesome.
It's really been an absolute pleasure, man. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on, Phyllis. It's
absolutely
really good to talk to you. Invite me back anytime, man.
Oh,
absolutely, man.
We can't wait to see the stuff you have coming out. We'll definitely invite you back to chat some more.
Cool. All right, brothers.